Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Monday, October 27th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. In Riverside today, expect a high of 76.3 degrees and a low dipping to 56.3 degrees, so layer up for the evening chill. Coming up, we'll examine the reasons behind the U.S. deploying warships and troops in response to Venezuela's regime, and unpack why flights to LAX have been grounded during the ongoing government shutdown. Plus, other key stories on global tensions, domestic impacts, and more. All this and beyond on Alex's News. Stay with us. Good morning, folks. We're kicking off today's top stories with escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela, a situation that's building up faster than a tropical storm in the Caribbean. Joining me from the studio to break it down is our international correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, take us through this military buildup and what it means for the region.
Thanks, Grace. As of today, October 27th, 2025, the Trump administration has ramped up its military presence in the Caribbean Sea, citing the fight against what they call narco-terrorism and transnational criminal organizations. According to reporting from the Washington Post on October 26th, this operation under U.S. Southern Command is framed as an armed conflict against drug cartels threatening American lives through narcotics smuggling. Key players include the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford Strike Group, which can carry up to 90 aircraft and has moved closer to Venezuelan waters since October 24th through 26th, boosting surveillance and disruption efforts.
That sounds intense, Ethan, and there's more hardware involved, right? Walk us through the other assets and any recent movements.
Absolutely, Grace. CBS News reported on October 26 that the guided missile destroyer USS Gravely docked in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago just yesterday, and it's set to stay until October 30th, that's 3 days from now, for joint training with the local defense force and the 22nd U.S. Marine Expeditionary Unit. PBS NewsHour, drawing on Associated Press details from the same date, says these exercises target shared threats like drug, arms, and human trafficking, with U.S. Embassy official Jennifer Neidhart de Ortiz stressing the partnership's role in building resilience. Overall, Al Jazeera and The Guardian have tallied at least 8 warships, nuclear submarines, missile cruisers, F-35 jets, MQ-9 Reaper drones, P-8 surveillance planes, B-52, and B-1 bombers, plus about 10,000 sailors and Marines, excluding those in Puerto Rico. It's like the U.S. is turning the Caribbean into a floating fortress against what they see as Maduro's shadowy allies.
No pun intended, but that's a shipload of firepower. How has Venezuela responded to all this?
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has put the country on maximum preparedness for potential U.S. land strikes, viewing it as a provocative push for regime change. In speeches covered by Iran's Press TV and the Orinoco Tribune this October, he accused the U.S. of fabricating a new eternal war. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez announced coastal exercises with 125,000 troops along the Caribbean and Colombian borders, including emergency drills for incursions. Maduro's even calling civilians to join a militia, ready to declare a republic in arms if needed. Foreign Minister Yvonne Gill slammed it as a UN charter violation and a breach of CELAC's zone of peace, per Al Jazeera and Crisis Group reports from October.
And the U.S. side? What's the justification tying this to drugs and any evidence on Maduro's links to crime groups?
Washington points to Maduro leading the Tren de Aragua gang, which started in Venezuela's Tocorón prison around 2014 and runs extortion, trafficking, mining, and smuggling across Latin America, the U.S., and Europe. President Trump made the claim this October without public proof, as PBS NewsHour and the Washington Post noted, designating the regime illegitimate for deaths from drugs killing tens of thousands of Americans yearly. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reiterated on CBS News Face the Nation October 26th that there's no drug cooperation with Maduro. FBI and ODNI say it's a regime proxy, citing a 2024 Chilean probe into an exile's assassination ordered by Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello. The Justice Department charged nearly 30 members under the RICO Act, calling it a terrorist group. But a U.S. National Intelligence Council report from April 2025 found no conclusive direct control, just tolerance, and the DEA's 2024 assessment highlights Mexican cartels as the main threat, with Venezuelan cocaine playing a marginal role. Only about 5% transits there, per the UNODC World Drug Report 2025.
Fascinating gaps there. Tell me about the airstrikes and any plans for ground action.
Since September 2025, U.S. forces hit at least 10 suspected drug vessels off Venezuela's coast, killing over 43, including civilians like fisherman Alejandro Carranza, whose family denies trafficking ties, according to CBS News October 26. The first public strike in the region since 1989 was September 2nd, taking out 11 alleged narco-terrorists. Trump authorized CIA lethal ground ops inside Venezuela and covert actions elsewhere, with Pentagon plans hinting at land strikes. He even said, quote, "land is going to be next," end quote, after maritime routes, per the Washington Post and Air and Space Forces magazine this October.
Legally, how does the U.S. square this, and what's the international buzz?
The administration calls it a non-international armed conflict with cartels, notified to Congress October 1st via a Justice Department opinion, allowing lethal action against threats. An executive order from January 20th, 2025 targets terrorist and criminal groups, invoking UN Charter Article 51 self-defense, with Ambassador Mike Waltz saying it fits armed conflict law, as in the Cipher Brief October reports. But no formal UN notification for recent strikes, per UN.org and Lawfare. ICJ precedents like Nicaragua versus U.S. in 1986 reject non-state drug harms as armed attacks. Scholars see it as law enforcement, not war, from Just Security and Chatham House analyses. Congress is split Democrats. War powers push failed 48-51 in the Senate, with critics like Senators Schiff and Kaine calling it unconstitutional, while Lindsey Graham sees land strikes as possible per Responsible Statecraft and CBS News.
Regional reactions must be heating up like jerk chicken on a grill.
Spot on, Grace. Trinidad's Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar backs the U.S., praising the USS Gravely for fighting trafficking amid high local murders, countering zone of peace talk, from newsday.co.tt and PBS NewsHour, October 26th. But protests there call it an abomination near Venezuela. CARICOM urges dialogue, with 10 ex-leaders including Keith Rowley pushing de-escalation, and Barbados PM Mia Mottley warning against war, per Stabrook News and Caribbean Today. OAS is quiet, but ALBA denounces threats. At the UN Security Council emergency meet October 10th, Venezuela's ambassador Samuel Moncada accused plotting. Russia and China supported. Others urged restraint via UN.org and Arab News. UN experts blast strikes as extrajudicial, a stability threat, from People's Dispatch and The Standard. Colombia's Gustavo Petro voiced concern, offering Venezuela aid if hit, per EFE.com. Analysts at International Crisis Group and Council of the Americas say it's the most dangerous standoff in years, with a $50 million U.S. bounty on Maduro stoking fears, potentially disrupting trade, and worsening Venezuela's crises, as CBS News covers.
Phew, Ethan, that's a powder keg waiting for a spark. Thanks for unpacking all those details and sources for us.
My pleasure, Grace.
And now, our second story of the morning. Yesterday's chaos at Los Angeles International Airport has travelers grounded in more ways than one, thanks to the federal government shutdown wearing thin on air traffic controllers. Joining me to unpack this turbulent situation is our aviation correspondent, Chloe. Chloe, what exactly happened at LAX?
Grace, it was a real flight fright. On October 26th, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a ground stop for flights heading to LAX, starting at 11:42 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 8:42 a.m. Pacific Time. This held planes at their origin airports and blocked arrivals, lasting about 1 hour and 45 minutes until around 1:30 p.m. Eastern. According to NBC News reporting on Associated Press details, Average delays hit 1 hour and 40 minutes, with some passengers cooling their heels up to 87 minutes.
That's a long wait for sure. And this ties into the broader shutdown, right? Can you explain for folks at home why controllers are stretched so thin?
Absolutely. The shutdown kicked off October 1st and is now in its 27th day as of today, October 27th. It's rooted in congressional gridlock over spending, foreign aid cuts, and Affordable Care Act tax credits expiring at year's end. About 13,000 air traffic controllers, essential federal workers, are on the job without pay. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told Fox News Sunday Morning Futures, as cited by NBC News and The Independent, that financial stress plus the job's high pressure is spiking sick calls. He noted 22 staffing triggers on October 25th, the most since the shutdown began, meaning controllers are truly wearing thin like old runway tarmac.
Staffing triggers, what's that mean for the average flyer who might not know the lingo?
Think of them as red flags for understaffing. They could compromise safety and flow in the skies. The Independent, drawing from Associated Press reporting, says these alerts show the national airspace system is at risk. Pre-shutdown, the FAA already had 3,500 unfilled controller spots per The Guardian Enlivenment, forcing overtime and 6-day weeks that breed fatigue. The shutdown halted training at the FAA Academy on October 3rd, sending trainees home and scaring off recruits amid pay woes. As the travel and NATCA sources via Economic Times explain, this creates a fragile system, with staffing now causing 53% of delays, up from 5% before.
And LAX wasn't alone in this shutdown storm. What about other airports?
No, it was nationwide turbulence. Associated Press News, Los Angeles Times, and The Guardian detail similar issues on October 26th. Newark Liberty in New Jersey saw 82-minute average delays. Teterboro and Southwest Florida International had halts, while Chicago O'Hare, Reagan National, Phoenix Sky Harbor, Bush Intercontinental in Houston, San Diego, and Philadelphia implemented ground delays from 15 to 62 minutes. By noon Eastern, 6 airports had shortfalls, leading to over 8,000 nationwide delays, a jump from 5,300 the day before, according to FAA data in Hindustan Times and CBS News.
Any ongoing ripples today?
Yes, San Francisco International is still bumpy, with 44-minute average ground delays from yesterday, no morning departures, and whispers of a full stop per traveler chats on the Rick Steves Travel Forum and SF Chronicle updates. Earlier, Hollywood Burbank's tower went dark for nearly 6 hours, causing dozens of delays and 12 cancellations with 2-hour 31-minute averages, as LA Times reported. Flight trackers like Click Orlando and Travel and Tour World show spikes at Dallas airports too.
Broader picture, Chloe, how bad economically?
It's a $1 billion headwind weekly to travel spending, estimates the U.S. Travel Association via Fox Business and ustravel.org. Duffy warns of more cancellations without a fix. Congress is stalled, Senate clean resolutions failing party lines per House.gov and Washington Post, with payday tomorrow, October 28th, looming payless. Historically, only the 35-day 2018 to 2019 shutdown over border funds saw similar chaos like LaGuardia stops, per Wikipedia, Congress.gov, and Forbes. That cost $11 billion in GDP, half from aviation, with airlines losing millions, as CRFB and Altexsoft analyzed. Travelers on Rick Steves' forum, like user David in Seattle citing Associated Press, are fuming over holiday plans, urging skips if unresolved.
What a shutdown. That's truly clipping wings. Thanks for the high-flying details, Chloe.
Always, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. In Cameroon, the ballot says Biya again. At 92, President Paul Biya has been declared the winner of the October 12th election, securing an 8th term with just over 53% of the vote. Challenger Issa Chiroma, at roughly 35%, had preemptively claimed victory and called for protests, alleging fraud. Tensions flared like a match to kindling. Clashes between opposition supporters and security forces left at least 4 dead in Douala. Several Western ambassadors, including from the EU, UK, and Canada, boycotted the results ceremony. The decision stretches Biya's 43-year rule, potentially keeping him in power near the century mark, as authorities crack down on dissent and arrest opposition figures amid deepening political divisions. Argentina's political winds were in full gale as President Javier Milei's La Libertad Avanza coalition cut through the midterms with more than 40% of the national vote, outpacing the Peronist bloc at roughly 24 to 32%. The result could turbocharge Milei's legislative engine. Projections lift his lower house seats from 37 to over 90 and the Senate tally from 6 to 20. Washington watched closely, with the Trump administration tying up to $40 billion in aid to a favorable outcome. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent pitched it as an economic Monroe Doctrine, while President Donald Trump toasted a landslide on Truth Social. Milei says the win greases the gears for his chainsaw, cuts, and deregulation, promising what he calls the most reformist Congress in Argentina's history. In the South China Sea, a 1-2 splash, an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter and an FA-18F Super Hornet from the USS Nimitz went down in separate incidents about 30 minutes apart on Sunday, October 26, 2025. All 5 crew members were recovered and are in stable condition, proof that even when birds and hornets fall, the safety net can still soar. The Navy says the Carrier Strike Group was on routine operations in international waters, and the back-to-back mishaps aboard the fleet's oldest operational carrier, on its final deployment before decommissioning, will prompt a full safety and maintenance review. Causes are under investigation amid already choppy geopolitical seas in the Indo-Pacific. Ireland turned a new page heiress. Left-wing independent Catherine Connolly won the presidency in a landslide, securing 63% of first preference votes to Heather Humphreys, 29%. Backed by Sinn Féin, Labour, and the Social Democrats, Connolly pledged to be an inclusive president for all and a voice for peace, echoing Ireland's neutrality while voicing sharp criticism of Israeli actions in Gaza, positions that resonated with many voters. While the office is largely ceremonial, it carries a global microphone. Connolly will be inaugurated November 11, 2025, succeeding Michael D. Higgins as Ireland's 10th president, with social justice set high on the agenda. Stateside, the mail must go through, unless the money doesn't. The U.S. Postal Service has cut its $24,000 annual support for a downtown Phoenix mailroom that anchors thousands of homeless residents. That slice, at least 20% of the budget for 2 decades, helped the nonprofit Keys to Change serve about 7,000 people each year, offering a stable address for jobs, benefits, and medications, without requiring government ID. USPS says a nearby post office can serve the community. The nonprofit says it now needs donations to bridge the gap as demand swells and federal aid thins. As envelopes go unfunded, life's essentials risk getting lost in the mail. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.